I still see this obnoxious requirement for a bachelor's degree, master's degree preferred.
For a master's degree for sales?
Preferred. That's their preferred. And I worked at a company that I love and I hold very dear to my heart. But one of the things that I struggled with the most was hiring good salespeople when they required me to hire only people with a college degree who had a 4.0 or higher.
Welcome to the She's So Sweet podcast, where we interview accomplished women who have worked their way to the C-suite. I'm your host, Kristi Faltorusso, Chief Customer Officer and award-winning customer success executive. I am so thrilled to introduce today's guest, Steph Reck, Chief Revenue Officer at Japhy AI. Hey, Steph, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kristi. Thanks so much for having me today.
Okay, all right, I got to pause here because my husband and I, we talk about this all the time because we have a daughter who's getting ready to go to school. Who is checking the credentials? Like, who is going and checking? Because anyone can go put summa cum laude on their resume. I'm not checking that, especially if you have somebody who's worked a couple years, right? You're relying on their experiences. No longer is the education the big thing that I care about. So Were people really validating that stuff? I need you to tell me, is that being checked?
One time in my career, I had an organization actually check my credentials.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly one time. And the only reason I knew that they did was because I put down my education at University of Phoenix and I put MBA coursework because I didn't finish.
Right.
And they said, we're getting hung up because we can't find your graduation year. And I said, that's because I didn't graduate.
Yeah. And you're like, it says it. I didn't claim to have an MBA. I said MBA coursework.
Mm-hmm. That was the only time. And that was back in 2019, I'll say, 2020.
That's still too recent for me.
That's
if you told me that was 2006, I'd be like, oh, okay, all right, fine. 2008, maybe 2010. But you just said 2020 and I got really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And some of my best salespeople and CS people, who are, by the way, also all salespeople, whether they like to believe it or not,
I agree.
Have not had college degrees. And
so then what makes them great, right? Because it's clearly not the education. So what are the intrinsic things that drive them to be so wildly successful?
It's their DNA, their drive, their ambition, and their nature that I look for.
Right.
I look for their ability to problem solve. I want to hear that they have come up against big road bumps, big friction points in building pipeline, in converting sales. I want to hear that they've figured out how to manage a discovery process effectively and disqualify. I want to hear how many no's they look for because they're going to get the yeses. If they give me the right amount, and there's no one size fits all, by the way, but I'll use this. I look for 1,000 no's. I will get 100 yeses. How many yeses do I need? And then I might modify that based on where I am. What is our TAM? Do we have product market fit? Or are we first to market? Nobody knows who we are, right? So that's going to modify my numbers a little bit.
Right.
But if I hear from someone that they have the grit and the determination and they have, the discipline to follow a process, they're probably going to make a fairly decent salesperson. Those are some of the fundamentals I look for. I am not looking at how much revenue does your resume say you brought in over the years, right? I don't care if you brought in, or you say you brought in $50 million in revenue over the last 10 years. How did you bring in $50 million?
Right, because I was going to say, that doesn't tell you anything.
Doesn't tell me anything. So your achievements are one thing. I care more about how you got there. I care about how you pick yourself up when you just got kicked in the teeth.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you're a good salesperson, you figure out how to be pretty nimble and resilient. So if I've got somebody who's scrappy and resilient and they figured out how to be a decent salesperson and they figured out when to exit a company because everything that they do is either going unnoticed or the clients are falling off the back end. And they can tell me definitively, I've tried all of these things to make sure I'm setting correct expectations at the outset of the relationship, that I feel like I've done a solid handoff. Maybe I could have done some things differently, but boy, we're still losing our customers and that affects my commission. That kind of conversation tells me more about the organization and the structure of the organization than it does about can this person sell or not.
Right.
But what it does tell me is this person's identified that there is a problem there that they're not able to influence to the degree necessary to be successful at that org. Therefore, it is time to sunset that role and move to another area where they can impact change.
And none of that has anything to do with where they went to college.
Correct. Or if they went to college.
Right. Or if they went. And I think it's so funny because I don't know what you went to school for, Steph. I went to school for public relations. And let me tell you, not one day in my career did I practice public relations. Not one day. Did it help me become a better writer? Probably. But I can't think of too many other skills that I learned getting my degree in public relationships that have transcended into helping me be successful at being a chief customer officer today, or even as part of that journey. Just very interesting to me, right? So what does the 4-year education matter? It's usually not even relevant. We're like checking boxes, and the fact that people are still so bent out of shape and like so hung up on this is so wild to me.
And I get that we want people who are well-rounded and that they have experienced things in life. So go and experience things in life. I have, my son is in school. He's post-military and now he's using his GI Bill to go to school.
Love that.
And he has an aspiration for a very particular career. And he is getting hung up on math. So they are going to miss out on a highly skilled individual who has a passion for something and wants to do it, because he's getting hung up on something that's not as relevant for the role that he's going to be going for. But that's the prereq to get into that particular engineering program. And I know that math goes with engineering. Like that's a whole nother conversation that we can get into. But my point is there are prerequisites that are irrelevant in many degrees that you have to take before you can get into your specialized field. If we had the ability for people to go to college, to have a good job, well-paying job that can pay off those enormous student loans, right? If we could find a way to streamline the educational process, I may be more college focused. I may support that avenue more, but right now we're seeing an enormous amount of college graduates who cannot find adequate employment to support themselves, let alone a family. And they end up pivoting their career goals. One of my daughter's best friends, her best friend actually, whom I've known most of her life, is a teacher. She's come out of school with enormous debt, and she has one of the lowest paying careers I have come across. I am appalled at how little she makes and how passionate she is about her job, how good she is in her job. And she may have to change her career because she simply cannot afford to survive on that compensation. So why are we gatekeeping good paying roles to people and forcing everybody down this college route? And I wholly subscribed to it because I thought that was the only way I was going to be successful, is if I got a college degree, I worked my butt off as a single mom, and then I would make it.
Well, that's what we were told, right?
That's what we were told.
Yeah.
That's what we were told. And thankfully, I didn't come out with enormous debt, not like our kids are today.
Yeah.
Our college grads today, it's absurd. So, and I learned this over a period throughout my career where I had staff coming to me early on in an engagement with us and saying, what do I do to get a raise? I need a raise. I've been here for 6 months. I need a huge raise. Or they would come to me during the interview process and they all wanted $100,000 as a base salary coming in the door. And so I started to ask them why. Why do you need this? Why do you feel like your skills and experience demand this rate of pay?
Yeah.
I have to cover my student loans. Overwhelmingly, that was the
That's
response.
Crazy.
My student loans are $1,500 a month. They're $2,000 a month. That's more than my rent payment.
Crazy. Right.
It's insane. So if we want to be more inclusive and get more females or underrepresented folks and communities into tech and into sales and CS, we have to do away with some of these ambiguous requirements like a college degree.
Yeah.
Because that is not obtainable for many people, but they deserve the right to have a good paying career that's going to allow them to live a comfortable lifestyle. So things that I strive for are, how do I remove that? Going back to, working with our talent acquisition teams and kind of the way we go to market to find new talent and attract new talent. We have to be telling people and screaming from the rooftops, we have an opportunity for you at this company. And here's how we're going to get you to the level that you need to be successful. Here's how we're going to support you. That means companies have to go back to adding internship programs that aren't tied to colleges. That means we need different opportunities like Pavilion. I'm a member of Pavilion. You can take a ton of coursework for considerably less money than a college degree. We're talking somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000 a year. That's one class elsewhere. You can take dozens of coursework in sales leadership, go-to-market principles, you can take chief marketing officer school, chief revenue officer school, revenue fundamentals. You can take all of this coursework that's entirely relevant to the job that you want, like your next career opportunity, or even the job that you're in, so that you can become better at it. And I've received substantially more value out of those type of continuing education that I ever got previously. So if I was consulting with, someone recently out of high school who says, gosh, I really want to go into sales, or I like to be around people. I'm kind of a chameleon. I can walk into any room. I can attract people to talk to me. I'd say, great. How do we get you in sales? How do I get you into some of these mentorship programs that'll align you for sales and you don't have $150,000 or $200,000 in student debt? I would love it.
Yeah, we don't spend enough time focused on that.
No.
So I want to pivot for a second, but before I do just want to thank your son for his service. We appreciate that, and I hope that he does figure out his path into engineering.
And my daughter as well is former military.
Oh my gosh,
and she's in
look
tech
at you.
now.
I love that. Well, thank them both for their service. I don't think that we do enough to appreciate what goes into that and the sacrifices they make for us. So appreciate it.